Hi, I'm Father Jim Forson, and I'd like to share with you some reflections on the gospel of this 15th Sunday in Ordinary Time. You know, whenever I'm traveling somewhere and I have to pack a suitcase for the journey, one of the things I came to discover about myself is that when it comes to packing, I'm the worst. I'm the worst. I never bring with me what I really need, and I find myself with stuff that I don't. And you would think after several trips that I would have learned by now, learned my lesson, but I don't. I keep making the same mistake over and over. And you know, there's websites dedicated to nothing else other than teaching people what to pack and how to pack. And I've read all those and it does no good. My suitcase is open on my bed. I'm trying to concentrate what to bring with me and what not to bring. And inevitably I find myself at my destination, and after a couple days thinking, what did I bring that for? And why didn't I bring that? And so I've just kind of resigned myself to three things, keys, wallet, phone. If I have those three things, I feel secure. But that phone, there's something suspicious about that, because have you ever committed the sin that I have committed where I'm in my car getting ready to run an errand to the grocery store, and all of a sudden I realize, oh my God, I don't have my phone with me. I got to stop the car and get out and go get my phone, because, how can you go grocery shopping without your phone? Or how can you go to the dry cleaners without your phone? I might need to call somebody. Someone might need to text me. And I ask myself, who owns who? Do I own that phone, or does the phone own me? And in a parallel way, Jesus is saying to his era pretty much the same thing. He is telling his people, his disciples, as he is sending them out for their very first mission to proclaim the gospel of forgiveness, he is saying to them, to put it simply in two words, travel light. And he gets real specific with them too. He says, walking staff and sandals and one tunic, not two, just one. And he goes on to say, don't bring with you a traveling bag and no money, because if you do your job the way you're supposed to, when you go into towns, people will hear your gospel and they will welcome you into their homes and they'll take care of you. So, travel light. Or in other words, don't let your possessions overwhelm your ministry and your mission. And he says the same thing to us. He has given us all that mission to proclaim the gospel of repentance. And repentance means the conversion of one's life, the changing of one's life. I was going in this direction and now I'm going in the opposite direction. And to be able to do that kind of mission, just as he said to the disciples, he says to us, do not let yourself be overwhelmed or owned by your possessions, your burdens. And so I guess we all have to ask ourselves, am I being overwhelmed by the burdens I carry? I mean, I know we all have to carry the cross of Jesus Christ, but I think there's sometimes in our lives where we're carrying a cross that Jesus certainly didn't give to us. And we can ask ourselves, where did this come from? I know this woman who told me once how she had the role in her family of being like the one who the peacemaker, that keeps the family from fighting with each other and tries to negotiate calm and peace in the family. And it was exhausting. And finally, she got to the point in her own life of saying, wait a minute, who put me in charge? Who made me the chief negotiator in the family? And whether it was something that was given to her or whether she just took it upon herself, she was exhausted by it and finally decided to quit doing it. And everybody in the family wanted her to continue. Like, what's wrong? Why aren't you doing this? You're supposed to do this. But that burden was overwhelming her heart. And I think all of us have carried with us burdens that have just become too much. They just overwhelm our hearts. And an overwhelmed, overburdened heart cannot proclaim the gospel of conversion. What burdens our hearts? Well, maybe sin. Maybe we can look at some of the things we've done wrong in our lives that we carry with us still, and we don't let ourselves off the hook. We don't forgive ourselves. That can be a terrible burden to carry. I know this one woman one time who was telling me how guilty she felt and asked me, Father, am I sinning because, I'm supposed to take care of the religious education of my son, and I can't get him to go to church with me anymore. He just won't go. And is that my fault, my sin? And, I asked her, how old is your son? And she said, 42. I had to say to her, well, your son's a grown boy now. It's not your responsibility. You don't need to worry about that anymore. Or in other words, you don't have to carry that burden. That's not yours. Put that burden down. We can find our hearts sometimes filled up with the burden of anger or resentment, or even more difficult is the burden of living with failures in our life. When life didn't go the way we wanted it to, and maybe we made a mistake, or maybe we just weren't treated fairly by life around us, and we can't let go of that. And we carry that with us. Or maybe I think the worst burden of all is when we don't forgive ourselves for our mistakes that we've made. God forgives us. Maybe we've gone to confession. The church has forgiven us, but we don't forgive us. We never let ourselves off the hook. We carry that with us all our lives, and it's exhausting, and it is a terrific burden. And if we are carrying that burden, I guarantee you, our hearts will never be the heart that can help convert another. Our hearts will never be able to proclaim that gospel of new life to other people. Perhaps then, Jesus' words to his disciples are given to us. Travel light. And that means for us, put down all of those burdens that are not the cross of Jesus Christ. Put down all of those burdens that are just overwhelming our hearts. And then, if we can do that, we might have a heart that is therefore open to forgiveness and giving forgiveness, a heart that is open to receiving mercy and giving mercy, a heart that is open to being understood and being understanding. In other words, a heart that is converted. And if we have that, well, then we can proclaim the gospel of conversion. Because a converted heart converts hearts.